Hi, everybody. It's Gypsy. I apologize for the late. I've been getting up at like 3 o'clock in the morning because of pain. So they have the lights off in the cafeteria at this time. And can't really do it in my room. I tried earlier because of my roommate. So kind of doing this in the dark. I tried turning on the light on my camera. It was way too harsh and it was hurting my eyes. I just couldn't deal with it. So anyways, I wanted to talk about something interesting that was brought to my attention a couple weeks ago. Now, before I was in the hospital, COVID didn't affect my life. I didn't think about it all that much or anything. But when you're in the hospital for a couple weeks, it's kind of there all the time. But when I was in the hospital where I had my surgery a couple weeks ago, it was my physical therapist, and he had a young protege with him. And somehow, I don't remember how, of course I was, in La La Land with my drugs. He said, we were talking about COVID. And he says, have you ever had it? I said, no. He says, neither have I. He says, of course, working in the medical field, I had to be vaccinated. He says, were you ever vaccinated? I said, no. And then the young woman who was working with him, she said she had it, but it was just like a mild cold. And he says, well, he looks at me, he goes, do you know your blood type? And I said, yeah. And he says, what is it? I said, O positive. And he says, I'm not surprised. He goes, that's what I thought. He says, mine's O positive. And he looked at the young woman, and she's O negative. And he says, well, I recently read a study that was done. People with O-type blood are the least likely to get COVID. I thought, wow, that's interesting. And when I felt better, I've been wanting to research it, look into it, and I thought I wasn't going to find anything at all. But they talk about it, there's a lot of articles they are talking about that. So now I'm thinking, I think my brother, he also works in the medical field. I don't think he's had COVID, not that I've heard. My sisters have, at least once. And my brother, I think he has O positive blood like I do. Okay, so I just spoke to my brother, and he's a BSRN. He's been working in the medical field for years. He has the same blood type as my dad and I. Well, my dad did. And he's never had COVID. Our mother and our two sisters have had it. My brother and I, it's just weird stuff like broken bones. So what is it about type O blood? I've never been scientific. I don't get into this stuff, but I'm finding this fascinating. What is it about that particular blood type? If there is anybody with knowledge, please let me know, because I am fascinated. I'm grateful. I am. I feel very blessed that I have type O blood, and that I haven't had COVID or even so much as a respiratory illness since, well, what was I in? I was in my late 20s. I don't understand it. I'm fascinated by it. I don't know. I think that is information that might be helpful to the medical community in saving lives. Wouldn't one think? So, I don't know. I'm very fascinated. And our father had O positive blood. So I'm thinking about, like, my dad, for instance. Rarely ever did he get sick. It was so rare. I think I remember one time when he was in his late 20s, early 30s. And, he ended up getting cancer in his 50s. But other than that, other kinds of illnesses, no, he didn't get. Me, like I told you guys the other day, it's been about 30 years since I've had anything like the flu or a respiratory illness. Now, I did have a stroke. And I do get weird stuff like myalgic encephalomyelitis, chronic fatigue syndrome, which is those mysterious illnesses. They're not contagious or anything, but they have no information about it. I had it for about 8 years, and it finally went away. But, the regular, everyday, common cold and stuff like that, I don't got. And, it's very strange. My dad was the same way. So, I found that very, very interesting. I'm wondering why. I don't have knowledge about this stuff. I'm not a medical professional. I just don't, not a very scientific person. But I am finding this fascinating. Why O-type blood? Yeah, the article said O-type and the O's and the ABs. And like AB is the most rare type of blood. O is the second most rare. I just can't figure that out. If there's anybody who knows anything about why this might be, I mean, I just don't get sick. Like with common stuff, right? Now I'm in the hospital because, well, I shattered my tibia and needed major surgery. I don't know. It's odd. I just can't figure it out. I want to talk to my brother about it. He's at work right now, so but when I see him or talk to him next, I'm going to ask if he knows anything about this. And when was the last time you were sick? And did you ever get COVID? And you work in a hospital. And like when it first started, my brother's an infectious disease nurse, and there was an incident at the beginning of the COVID epidemic that he had to deal with in the hospital he was working at. They had they kept one of their elevators to bring the food and stuff up and down. One was for the non-COVID patients. One was for the COVID patients. They wanted to keep everything separate to be on the safe side. And I think an employee or something accidentally used the wrong elevator. So my brother was dealing with stuff like that. I find this fascinating, and I wonder why. So if any of you who have any knowledge on this, please share it, because I can't believe it's like, wow, really? I can't believe it when this guy told me that. And over Christmas, I was exposed big time. I went to Ohio for Christmas. I was going to go see my mother every day. So I'm on the train going to Ohio. I get a text from my sister. You can't see mom till Christmas Day. I'm like, why? There was a COVID outbreak. There were 5 patients who had COVID. Mom's one of them. You have to wait until she's not contagious anymore. Okay, fine. So I waited till Christmas Day. And I was going in there. By this time, she was still in isolation. But she wasn't contagious anymore. They kept her there for quite a long time. But after the original 5 patients were no longer contagious and they kept them in isolation, there were like 15 to 20 more patients who came down with COVID. So I'm like, you know what? I came all the way across country to see my mother. I'm going to go see her. I'll just risk it. So I was going back there. They're so short-staffed and stuff. They had like one kind of area outside, like the TV area, where, you could visit with family and stuff. I would go get my mother, wheel her out, and stuff like that. I would go get her food, or if she's thirsty, if she needed something from the nurse. So I was in the midst of these 15 to 20 patients all the time. And yes, we all had masks on and stuff. I don't know. And you guys know how I feel about the masks and stuff like that. Yes, I'm one of the rebels. But for my mother, I'll do it so I can see my mother. So if you have information about that, you know stuff about that, you're a scientist in the medical community, please comment. I would love to know about this blood type thing. So I'm going to leave you with that. Blessed be, and make it a joyful